that feeling, right? That bone-deep exhaustion after a really long week? But what if that feeling was more than just being tired? What if it was an invisible enemy quietly sabotaging your ability to perform when it really, really matters? To get to the bottom of this, we've got to ask a crucial question first. And this really is a critical question. The answer could totally change how you look at your work, your health, and your safety. Because, while we often use those words, tired and fatigued, interchangeably, they actually represent two very, very different states of being. So what is the big difference? Well, tiredness is that familiar feeling after a long day. You know you need to rest, and hey, a good night's sleep usually takes care of it. Fatigue, on the other hand, is a much deeper physiological state. It's a condition that degrades your performance, and it doesn't just vanish after one night of sleep. It literally chips away at your abilities, often without you even realizing it's happening. Okay, so let's put this invisible danger right under the microscope. We're not just talking about feeling a little sleepy here. We're talking about a measurable, real decline in your ability to function at your absolute best. Here's the official definition, and honestly, it's pretty chilling when you think about it. Fatigue doesn't just make you yawn. It makes you irritable. It makes you less sharp. And this is the really crucial part. It makes you willing to accept a wider margin of error. In any high-stakes job, like, say, aviation, that is a recipe for disaster. And the signs? Wow, they can be so subtle. We're talking about things like your timing being just a little off, becoming forgetful, finding it hard to concentrate, or maybe you're just more aware of little aches and pains. These are all things we might just brush off, blame them on a bad day, when in reality, they're big red flags that our performance is compromised.
And fatigue isn't just one thing. Think of it more like a spectrum. On one end, you've got acute fatigue. That's the short-term exhaustion you feel after a really tough day or two. Proper rest can fix that. But if you ignore it, if you let that sleep debt build up, it can spiral into chronic fatigue. And that is a much more serious state that can take a very, very long time to recover from.
This right here, this is the heart of the problem. This is what makes fatigue so sneaky. It's a trap. The more fatigued you get, the less capable you are of even realizing it. It's like having a faulty fuel gauge in a plane. The very system you rely on to warn you of danger is the first thing to break down. So what's causing all this? I mean, sure, lack of sleep is the obvious one, but the list is actually way longer. It includes physical things like noise, vibration, and weird temperatures, but also, and this might surprise you, psychological factors. That's right, even boredom and monotony can be incredibly fatiguing. So if we want to fight fatigue, we first have to understand this powerful biological force that governs our need for rest. And that means we need to decode the science of sleep itself. At the very heart of all this is our circadian rhythm. Just think of it like a master clock inside your body. It's this natural, internal process that runs on a roughly 24-hour cycle. It's what tells our bodies when to sleep, when to wake up, when to eat. It pretty much regulates everything. But here's a pretty wild twist. If you were to go live in a cave somewhere with no clocks and no sunlight, your body's natural free-running clock would actually settle into a rhythm that's closer to 25 hours, not 24. Isn't that crazy? So how on earth do we stay in sync with the rest of the world? Well, we do it through these external cues called Zeitgebers, which is a great German word that means time givers. The most powerful Zeitgeber, by far, is light. Sunlight, regular meal times, getting some exercise, they all work together to kind of pull that 25-hour internal clock back and anchor it to our 24-hour day. And when we finally do get to sleep, it's not just one big block of being unconscious. We actually cycle through 5 different stages, going from light sleep down into deeper and deeper sleep, and then finally into REM sleep. That's where most of our dreaming happens. And each full cycle takes about 90 minutes. So, what happens when we ignore these natural rhythms? What happens when our jobs force us to fight against millions of years of evolution? Well, the consequences can be pretty severe. Working at night, for instance, is a direct conflict with our circadian rhythm. It completely messes up our sleep, leads to sleep deprivation, and that just hammers our performance, our mood, and even our basic motivation to do a good job. In some really extreme cases, this kind of disruption can lead to a truly terrifying phenomenon called night shift paralysis. This is a state where a person, like an air traffic controller after a long sleepless night, is fully awake and aware of everything going on, but they are physically frozen, unable to move or take any kind of action. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. Full retention of consciousness with a total immobility. You are fully aware, you see a potential disaster unfolding right in front of you, and you are completely and utterly powerless to do anything about it. Now, it's a rare thing, but it's a chilling example of just how dangerous sleep disruption can be.
Okay, wow, that was intense. But the good news is, fatigue is manageable. It's not a life sentence. You can take back control. So let's look at some practical, evidence-based ways to do just that.
The first number you need to burn into your brain is 2. 2 hours. Why? Because research shows that's about the maximum amount of time we can do continuous, focused work before our performance starts to nosedive. Pushing past that 2-hour mark isn't a sign of toughness. It's just accepting a higher risk of making a critical mistake. So the goal here is to build a defense system against fatigue. This means taking real, effective breaks away from your workstation so you can actually disconnect. It means having smart shift rotations. For mentally demanding jobs, the recommendation is no more than 2 night duties in a row. And of course, you've got the fundamentals, a proper diet and regular exercise.
And speaking of diet, what you eat and drink really matters. It's funny because often the things we do to fight fatigue actually make it worse. We might have a drink to unwind, right? But that alcohol before bed absolutely destroys the quality of our REM sleep. Or we pound back coffee, which just throws our entire circadian rhythm out of whack.
So let's try to reframe this whole thing. Experiencing fatigue isn't a character flaw. It's not a sign of weakness. It is a predictable, physiological response from your body. The big takeaway here is that it has to be managed actively and strategically, just like any other critical part of your health and safety.